Today on Ancient DOS Games, we're taking a look at Mini-Putt, a miniature golf game which must have looked really good on paper, and heck, it doesn't even look that bad on the screen, but it doesn't exactly play very well. Now don't get me wrong, the controls work perfectly fine, and short of a strange graphical bug that can occur when the final score sheet comes up, there's nothing technically wrong with the game, just a fundamental flaw with the gameplay which we'll go into. First though, let's take a look at the game stats. Mini-Putt was developed by Artex Studios and published by Accolade in 1987, and I should probably note that Artex Studios is also known by the name Artec Digital Entertainments. Anyways, Mini-Putt's a 1-to-4 player miniature golf game, and it supports multiple graphics modes, but it looks its best in its Tandy 320x216 color mode. It does support an EGA mode, but it has performance issues, so the Tandy mode is much preferred. It only uses PC speaker sound, and as for its release date, it's still commercial. Finding a copy isn't impossible, but expect to pay anywhere from $10 to $30 for one. And also be careful of which version you buy, because the game was actually released for multiple platforms, and each version is a little bit different from each other. So the basic premise of the game is actually as simple as it looks. Aim the ball with the crosshairs, a number in the bottom left corner tells you how much power will get the ball to where you're aiming, hit the button once to start, again to choose power, and again to choose accuracy. The only trouble with this formula really is the outlandish course designs. Now, there's actually 4 different 9-hole courses you can play: Traditional, Deluxe, Challenge, and Classic. The Traditional course has relatively simple holes. The Deluxe course, though, has rather complicated ones, and the Challenge course holes are extremely intimidating, but you can usually win them with very precise aiming, and the Classic holes feature obstacles or puzzles of various types. For the most part, though, these holes are not well designed. A good example is the last hole from the Traditional course. Firstly, you have that swinging thing to contend with, and even if you get past it, the arrow ramps will almost guarantee getting your ball sunk in the water hazards. And you might think that timing obstacles like that one are easy, but they keep going when you prepare the power and accuracy for your shot, which means you have to time it ahead of time based on how much power you intend to use. It takes a ton of practice to get the different obstacle timings down. Though, as a more generic example, the Deluxe holes are so convoluted that getting par or below on them frequently comes down to luck, just hitting the ball at full power and hoping it goes somewhere useful. The Challenge holes are also kind of like this, but most of the Challenge holes have a special sweet spot you can aim at, and getting the ball through this sweet spot will frequently get the ball in the hole. And occasionally not. Admittedly, just like in real miniature golf. The Classic holes are definitely the most annoying though, because they're full of obstacles. Like the elephant hole in particular is going to drive you nuts. Just getting the ball past the elephant's snout is hard enough, but then you have to make it across a bridge far enough so that the ramps don't accidentally push the ball in the water, and even once you're back across that boat, you still have to get the ball in the hole. Admittedly, if you played the heck out of this hole, you could probably do it in 2 shots. Otherwise though, expect this hole to crush you. You know though, the crazy thing is, I loved this game as a kid. 20 years ago when I first played it. But I think what drew me into the game was its very simplistic presentation, and I wasn't exactly old enough to realize the gameplay wasn't up to par. Now, being older and more... Oh, jeez, I just realized the pun I made. Oh, wow, I'm sorry, that was lame. Anyways, yeah, being older and more knowledgeable about this kind of stuff, the gameplay may look solid, sound solid, even play solid in one's imagination, but in reality, it just doesn't work that well. That said, I think there's 2 things that could have saved this game from mediocrity. A level editor would have really made this game stand out a ton, and I think more emphasis on skill shots than random chance in the course design would have been nice. And having the obstacles pause when you're doing your swing would have been smarter, because in real life, a swing doesn't take several seconds. It happens fast enough that the obstacles don't change in position dramatically. Actually, I'm going to be honest here. Speaking as a game designer, miniature golf generally does not translate well into video game form. It's because there's not really much you can do with the formula. You hit a ball in a particular direction and hope it goes where you want it to. It's like in a breakout game when you only have 1 brick left to destroy, but imagine you can hit the ball in any direction you want, and your score is based on how few hits it takes to hit that last brick. If it's out in the open, that's too easy and boring. Add 1 little obstacle, and suddenly it becomes a nightmare to hit that brick, and frustrating. Of course, there's exceptions to this rule, but as a general rule of thumb, miniature golf just doesn't work well in a world of 1s and 0s. Anyways, let's get into the Dosbox settings. First of all, this is another game with copy protection based on having the original disc, so you've got to get past that if you want to run the game in Dosbox. If you do get past that, then running the game is actually really simple. You set the cycles count to auto or max, set the machine type to Tandy, and then when you run the game, make sure you use the Tandy graphics mode, because that way you don't run into the performance issues the EGA mode has. And you may also want to turn the graphics scalers on, because they actually make the game look pretty good. And yeah, took me this many episodes to realize the filters, quote unquote, in Dosbox are actually called scalers. What are you gonna do? So yeah, a nice short review for episode 17, though make sure to tune in for episode 18 of Ancient DOS Games, because I'm going to be reviewing another typically average game, but it's said to be very similar to an older game, which helped Epic Mega Games break into the blossoming shareware market of the time. And if you know what game it is, make sure to send your guess to adg@pixelships.com, and stay tuned to see if you got it right.